Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Going Over Neighborhood Friendly Promoter, Trainer, Coach, 43-year-old professional wrestler, Zack Primetime Reeb, and I'm joined alongside my podcast partner. There it is right
Man,
there.
you're getting good at this, man. You're getting good at
Getting
the old.
good. The Wrecking Ball, Paul Isadora. Paul, how you doing? Tonight, and it is tonight.
I'm doing great, man. I'm on just a high of watching uh, the varsity basketball at my neighborhood high school here that my daughter attends. So getting getting into championship season here. So we're just getting excited to watch that. Boys and girls are crushing it here. So fantastic. You know, and 'tis the
Neighborhood.
season for those championships.
The neighborhood friendly basketball going all over the place. Crossover dribble, break those ankles, alley oops, slam dunks, go to the free throw line. Crip, knock two down, baby, knock two down. You know, speaking of knock two down, tonight we might knock two down because I got a couple things. One thing I wanted to talk about, and maybe I'm over here cussing, maybe some young aspiring Christian pro wrestler who's never heard the F word in the back of the school bus. One thing, a first impression, man, a first impression, because we've been doing this a very long time. And I know I sit there a lot of times when I work your show, you let me go out number one, and then I go back and I change out of my sweaty little undersized spandex and I put my clothes on and I come out and sit by you and we watch the wrestling shows. We critique the wrestling shows together. This is kind of where it all started right here on Going Over. And I just wanted to get your thoughts, man, as we're going to dive into this and then maybe flow the topic over if we got some time to something I just wanted to, that I really noticed this last weekend in watching some of the product on Limelight and Prospects. So a first impression, and people always say like, when I see Illumide walk into the building, no matter where he's coming from or what building or what town it's in, I always see him coming a mile away, and all I can think about is, where does this man shop? Why does this man look so sharp? And that's the first impression that he leaves on me when I see him. Also, another guy that I've just noticed here recently from SPW named Preston Price. And he's always got the really expensive haircut. He's got the expensive suits. He's another one like Illumide. He's got really good, expensive tattoos. He's got necklaces and jewelry. His gear, his ring gear. He's one of the young guys in the business that I see. His ring gear, you can tell he spent some money on that. You can tell that about guys in their ring gear too. So for these young guys, just go ahead and I'm going to let you start out today. And I'm just fucking with you. I'm gonna let you start out today. I'm gonna count your because we're really working on the speech patterns for both of us. Just like Rick Luxury likes to say, you see 10 times in a 2-minute promo. How you doing, Rick, out there? I know you'll be watching this down the road and probably want to beat the shit out of me. But call a spade, stirring the pot. But let me know some of those things like I just talked about right here, because there's many different first impressions I want to talk about today. But that first impression, I threw an example out there. You see guys like Illumide, Cody Rhodes, man, when you see him on the indies back in the day, because we saw him at the Cow Palace. Hey, guy dresses sharp, man. Some people dress like athletes, man. I know I wear warm-up pants and jumpsuits sometimes, but for me, a first impression of Illumide and Preston Price, and I even brought it up, is like, these guys look sharp.
Absolutely. I think you just have those guys. That's what they want to do, man. They want to make that first impression. And in most schools, one of those things that you try to talk to them about is doing exactly that. When you go to these big events, that's something that's really important is that you come in dressed like that. Like this is a job interview for most of these guys. So when you come in and you're dressed nice, it shows the people that you're there to impress that you care about this opportunity. So you're going to come in there and you're going to do the best you can as far as representing what you look like. And I know in some cases that's been the opposite of what people look like in general. I think about Adam, and for so many years, that was the thing that we did is we went to these, dark opportunities, extra spots, things like that with shirt and tie. And at some point, he just realized, like, this isn't me, man. I'm not representing myself the right way because I don't dress like this. This isn't the way I dress. I dress in a leather jacket, cut off sleeves, you know, blue jeans, boots, whatever it is, that's the way that he dresses. And so for him, dressing in a shirt and tie, suit, jacket, all this stuff, that doesn't represent what he is. So I think, in a sense, you want to make a good first impression, but at the same time, I don't think you want to misrepresent yourself. Like, hey, I'm this guy that's going to wear expensive suits when I show up at a venue. For most of us, me included, I'm a former professional basketball player. So, in a lot of senses, that would be how I would show up to a game day or something like that. Is I would be dressed up, very nicely, dress shoes, and trying to look good because that's the impression that you want to make. But I think as a pro wrestler, I'm still that athlete type uh, persona, right? I'm going to come in and in a sweatsuit just like you, man. So, because that's the way that I would dress coming to a basketball game, maybe. I'd be in a sweatsuit, dressing comfortable, man. I don't want to be all, hemmed up in a suit, trying to, be something that I'm not, man. I've always just been that sweatsuit guy. I mean, I think about since high school, probably if people saw me from high school
Same.
till now, they would go, "Oh, I bet." Even if I'm wearing jeans, I'm wearing basketball shorts underneath, man. Because for me, it was always like I'm gonna have my shoes, I'm gonna have a pair of basketball shorts, and I'm gonna have a basketball every single place that I went. So I still carry that over to go into events, man. I'm not trying to impress anybody. I'm gonna come in and just go, "Hey, this is me. Accept me for me." Obviously, I make a huge impression regardless, just based off of my size. But I think that that's something that's super important. And there's been cases where the first impression for people, I don't know about what you teach your guys, but I always teach our guys, like, introduce yourself with your actual first name. Don't go, "Hey man, I'm Crusher," or whatever it is. Because we had an opportunity to wrestle in Portland, and I remember a guy introducing himself with his work name, and I said, "Your mom didn't call you that. Your mom didn't name you that name. What's your real name?" Like, because that was one of the things that was like I just didn't quite understand it. And obviously, everybody calls me Paul, but I
I
think
call
it's
you Paul.
just right, exactly. And I think it's just one of those deals. It's somebody they know me as is Paul because they just know me as a wrestler. Regardless if I walk up to them and go, "Hey, what's going on, man, Steve?" That's just how it is, man. So making that first impression I think is super
Caught
important.
my first one.
No, there's already been two, man. I caught myself a couple times already. I'm trying
I,
to eliminate it as much as I can. That it's
right there.
my Achilles heel, my funny bone, whatever it is. Like
MPT,
the get
prime time,
right.
PT. I hear it all the time. Hey, bro, Prime. Yo, what's up, Prime? I'm like, whatever, man. But you just said it there. I mean, I was born in Philadelphia. adopted at birth, the whole nine. I could give you the story. My womb landlady was only 14 years of age, young Italian girl with the last name of Waddell. There I go in that voice again, my mocking voice. But I'm a big Allen Iverson fan. I'm a big Allen Iverson fan. And I look at it and I go, man, that was the dress. That's where the dress code came in. Allen Iverson had the tattoos. He did the hair. He dressed with the Slam was the magazine. He dressed with the swagger, man. He had the tattoos. He brought the arm sleeve to the game. A lot of people don't realize when I first started wearing that arm sleeve, basketball shooters wore the arm sleeve. Allen Iverson wore the arm sleeve. And a lot of people don't realize that when back in like 2000, 2001, I was one of the first guys wrestling that wore the basketball shooter sleeve. And it wasn't popular back then. And I wore it specifically because Allen Iverson was my favorite, Penny Hardaway, those guys like that. And I just love that style that they wore. But it got to the point where they had to do that. They had to make it a dress code. And Allen Iverson was the epitome of why they changed that dress code, man. He was the first guy in there with all the tattoos and had that Rucker Park street ball style gangster. And, I was always influenced by Allen Iverson, man. And when I look at it and we talk about that first impression, you said it, Adam Thornstowe. He's a punk rocker, right? That's his gimmick. That also is a first impression. You got these guys showing up and they're the Reno scum. To see them in a suit and tie wouldn't match the persona they're trying to play. And I get if there's a dress code, but for these young guys that are trying to play characters and personas, when you're walking into the building, if you're walking into a WWE or they see you after a show and you're the punk rocker guys, and then the next thing you know, they see you out eating food or driving around or anything, and you're in a suit and tie or you got on a Boys to Men shirt, then they're going to be like, hey, no, they're probably going to take a picture of you nowadays and bust you out, and you're going to have a million memes on that stuff. And you talk about that. That's important, man. The importance of keeping the persona. Like you said, I've never been a suit and tie guy myself. I've always been the jumpsuit guy with the nice Nikes on and the Oakland A's hat backwards. And we look at it, and when we talk about that stuff all the time, when we talk about first impressions while we're on this one, and you tell the students, say your real name. I have a big problem with that because I call you Paul. I know your name, but I call you Paul. I call Rayshawn. I don't refer to Bad News as his real name. I call him Bad News. You know what I mean? Like, I call wrestlers by their wrestling names because I'm so just programmed and used to when I talk to them, calling them by their names. When I'm writing this stuff on paper, it's always their name. When I put the names on the envelopes, it's always their wrestling gimmick. And I get so programmed to do that. Just like the handshake. I saw the handshake the other day, and my coach came in and he had broke his hand, and he came in and I knew he had a broken hand. So, either I give him the elbow or the quick little knuckle like that. And if I shake his hand, I'm aware of this injury. So I'm like real light, like we're supposed to. And I watched somebody, I forgot who, but they just wham, reached on in and squeezed it hard. And he's like, hey, man, what the fuck are you doing? My fucking hand's broken. You don't shake. Zach, why didn't you teach these guys to shake hands like that? And I get caught up in that in my own company. Like we're talking about the dress code I don't dress nice. And a lot of times I don't expect these guys to dress nice because it's more of a comfortable environment in PCW. And we're just showing up like, hey, it was a long drive to get here or whatever. I'm tired. I came from my job. I can't expect somebody who left work at 5:00 and showed up at the show at 6:30 before the show starts to show up in a suit and tie if they're still in their Denny's attire. You know what I mean? It's like, get in your gear and get out there, man. So that's one type, is that that dress code, which we're talking about, which I want to get back to. Another first impression that I think is key is how somebody handles themselves when they get in the building, when they've come in the building and they're about to head back into that locker room, and now you have a new talent sitting in your locker room. Talk about a first impression to these young guys about in the locker room etiquette.
Yeah, so I think it's one of those deals where you walk in and you introduce yourself. I guess I'm the guy that's going to say introduce yourself by your real name. Eventually, people are going to know what your work name is, and then it's going to become they call you by your work name, right? So I think that's going to come. But when you first walk in, I think it's important to give everybody respect because realistically, you don't know who's the talent guys and what each person does at a different show. So you might be walking up to the owner of the company and you don't even know it. So if you big league this person, they're going to be like, fuck this guy. I don't want him on my show anymore. Right. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But I always think about treating everybody with respect, regardless. This is somebody that's going to be doing the sound. This is going to be someone that's doing security, doing the music, grabbing jackets, whatever it is. I think everybody needs to you need to show respect to everybody as you walk in the back, right? So obviously we talked about dress code as well, and normally you're going to come in and hopefully you may be getting there early enough where you can help out with ring crew or setting up chairs or guardrails or the entrance or whatever, right? Um, yeah, of course, as long as you're getting paid to do that, then that's all good, man. Expect a little extra in the envelope if you're doing that stuff. But it's just the dress code is going to be based off of that. You're going to be traveling a long way. You want to be comfortable in the car. You want to be able to help out with the ring crew, all of those different things. But definitely introducing yourself, put your stuff down, make sure you're not in somebody else's way. If somebody else is sitting at a chair, make sure you're not sitting on their chair, things like that. Make sure it's like, is anyone sitting here? Is this cool if I sit right here? Can I put my stuff right here? Where can I put my stuff? Things like that. I think those are all respectful things to do when you get to a show, especially if it's your first time there. I think it's one of those when you walk in and show people respect, it's hopefully it's going to be reciprocated where now they're going to show you respect because you walk in and you're respectful and say, all right, I like this dude already. Um, don't, I don't know. I think it's, you get people that are too caught up in telling you about what they're going to do or where they've been or dropping stories, dropping names, things like that. That's one of my pet peeves, right? Right. I don't want someone to walk into the gym or into your locker room and hey, especially this is the thing that really irks me is when you get those people that they're walking in there, they think they're at some sort of status, so they're dropping names, and you're going, well, that guy sucks. Like, you know, you're going to tell me a story about the time that you wrestled this guy, and it's like, well, that guy's terrible. So don't talk about a story when you wrestle this guy like it's going to give you some sort of clout. I think that those are the things like you got to be aware of that type of stuff. Like you're not going to walk in the locker room and impress guys with guys that you worked with, right? You if you're that good, then people are already going to know about it, right? And I know Adam was one of those guys that was like, hey, you know what? I never have to tell anybody how good I am because everybody else around me is going to tell people how good I am. So I think having that mindset going in there, don't go in there trying to impress people by who you worked with and whatever. I think a lot of people get in the mood of if there's quiet that I need to fill this quiet time with I need to start talking, right? And I think I don't know about how you preach to your guys, but I know Mustafa with us was always like, you got two ears and one mouth. You should be listening twice as much as you're talking, right? And I know that might even be an understatement, right? Maybe that's too much talking as well. Maybe you should be listening more than that. But I think that that's a good baseline to start with, right?
Knew
Listen
I
to
knew
what
you'd
people are
love
talking about, so just I think just listening to people, introduce yourself. And it's one of those, I think it's a good thing to say, hey, can you watch my match? Especially if it's guys in the locker room that you know, you've seen, you respect. That's always a nice thing when someone comes up to me and goes, hey, would you mind watching my match? Hopefully they give a shit about it. But I feel like doing this podcast, we've realized that there's probably a lot of people that there's a lot of lip service of people that go, hey, can you watch my match? And as long as you give them good feedback, it's all good. But if you start critiquing it and telling them that they did something that oh, hey, I would have done this different, and maybe they start tuning you out at that point. So I think introducing yourself, making sure you're not invading people's space, being respectful, don't try to overtalk people. Don't walk in the locker room like you're a big star, right? Give people some respect, and I think it'll be reciprocated. So, what about you, man? People walk into your locker room for the first time, or obviously you're the booker, so you probably know who they are. But a lot of times you're bringing in brand new guys you've never met. You've seen them maybe, cross paths with them. What do you expect out of these guys when they
Well,
step into your locker room for the first time?
don't don't bring a bottle of Jergens or Lubriderm that I am sensitive to or allergic to, because then I'm going to be mad. It's like catching poison oak and getting in the shower when the water's hot. You know what I mean? Keep that away from me, man. I'm trying to not have an itchy rash by the time I have to drive that long drive home. Well, I mean, number one, show up on time. That's my big one. I don't know what other people have going on, but I got photos. I got shit we got to film. I got stock footage. I got face-offs. I have interviews. I have the what we're referring to now as the Dennis clip, the Buck clip, which is the 30-second clip where he's gonna get. I got the walk up. I got so much different stuff. Like Last Prospects, we're filming different stock and some stuff in the ring, and we're having them do the promo over the top of it to make little 25-second, 30-second vignettes. They're just moving around professionally shot in with the lighting, while the promo voice of them is over telling them who we are. So I have so much stuff I have to do. So in that sense, with me, and I'm sure WWE, I'm sure any MLW, anything that Tony Khan's doing, um, big wrestling promotions are gonna when we say show up on time, on call time, and that's number one to me. When we say call time, be available, be in gear, be ready, which I'm seeing a lot of guys are having a hard time. I have to tell guys to get ready. Hey man, are you ready? Get in your gear. Where's Stopper? Just get in your fucking gear, man. I'm doing you me and my guys are doing you a solid right here. Something that no one else is doing for you on the level that you're working at right now. And that's who we're speaking to. So get to the fucking show on time, put your shit on, and be ready to go. But then there's the flip side of it, right? There's the people that know what time I call time. And it becomes this thing around the locker room for these young guys when you're working for places where they go, oh, I saw Zach's flyer. I see how much he's charging for front row. I see how much he's charging for general admission. I see the basis of what time the doors open and the bells ring. This is how. So everyone is trying to follow somebody who's been around a while's format, right? So I've been to shows and I've had to talk to the promoter where they're like 1 o'clock call time or 2 o'clock call time, because that's what time I was calling. And you get there and you're there at 30 minutes early, and next thing you know, it's 4 o'clock and you haven't done nothing. And you're like, why the fuck did I show up? And I asked him, I said, hey, why would you ask us to show up here at 1 o'clock? And they're like, oh, we just wanted to make sure everybody, was here. And I'm like, so you wanted me to sit around the building. You wanted me to leave everything I had going on and get here and sit around this building for 4 hours before the doors open. And you didn't take no photos. You didn't You didn't take any video, no interviews, no nothing. You just literally made a call time for all of us to, for what? And that pisses me off because it's like, if you're going to call an early call time, if you're going to copy somebody else's format, you know what I mean? Have a reason why you're doing it. Pay attention, be observant, ask questions in the locker room. I like guys to ask questions. I don't like them to ask why. If they really don't understand what's going on, because I like to talk to people beforehand, if you've already explained to somebody something, and here's my biggest pet peeve. There's so much in the locker room. You covered a lot of it. Pick up your trash. You know what I mean? If you're a guy that pours water all over your head and shit, bring your own towel so you can wipe that up off the ground. We don't need to be slipping and tearing our ACLs in the locker room before we even walk out because you decided to take a prison shower in the locker room before you walked out. Get a spray bottle, spray yourself away from other people. One of my biggest, I guess I'm just going to keep going here. If there's a space that the wrestlers need to walk to get to the curtain, whether it's both sides of it or the dead center, if you are in a doorway that people need to walk through, why are we piled up right here in the doorway? Why is everybody standing in a spot that should be open so people can walk around and get ready before they're about to go out the curtain? Nothing pisses me off more than ignorant people that stand in the way. And here's my biggest pet peeve, Paul, and it's gone on, and I swear to God, it's never changed. Every show I've gone to, no matter what country I've been in, no matter what state I've been in, no matter if it's my own show, I put my bag and all my shit at a certain chair, and it hasn't failed for over 25 years. Somebody always moves my shit and takes my bag. And I see the person that does it, and I am petty as a mother effer. And I know that person. Yes, I'm petty. If you take my chair and move my shit, I will hold a grudge against you. And not a grudge like I won't book you, not a grudge like if you're over, I'm not going to give you a push or I'm not going to give you what you deserve. I'm going to hold that grudge against you, and I'm going to see you in the ring. I'm going to see you in there. And when I do, I'm not going to give you a 45-degree angle on a European uppercut. I'm not going to give you that angle on a reverse knife edge chop or a forearm. When I punch, I'm not worried about hitting you in the top of the head. It's coming right here around this area right there. If I frog splash you in my younger days, my hands are almost going to touch my feet behind me, and I'm going to hang there. And that's the beauty of the super kick. I'm going to ask you, hey, man, you trust me? Let me have that chin. So I'm going to find a way. And I'm not saying I'm hurting people. I'm being very sarcastic when I say this, but it just pisses me off, man. It's like, don't take my chair, man. I'd never take your chair. If I see your shit on it, do not take my chair. Pick up your trash when you're done, please. If you're not going to help out after the show, just leave, man. If there's no fans in the building, we don't need you hanging out talking about how good a time you're having. So be on time. That is one of the big first impressions for me is when this person shows up, is he on time? I mean, you said it, they're in the locker room. They're like, wrestles Gangrel. 4 years ago, we had a classic matchup. You should have seen it. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I could talk. I know Gangrel. I know Dave very well, and I know him by first name basis. I'm pretty sure if I called him right now or sent him a message and said, hey, Dave, this kid, Tommy Banger said you and him had a banger. He's going to be, I don't know who that is, Zach. So I see that part. So there's that impression. There's the impression, the dress to impress. There's the impression of when you show up. How about the impression, that first impression of somebody when they walk through that curtain? Here we go. The music's starting. I saw this guy bang his head against the wall in the locker room. He's bleeding out the forehead already because he's very intense, which we don't want to work that guy. But give us a little. I know this was a good one for you to get going on some stuff. Okay, so now we've talked about the way you show up to the building, whether you're in your character or you're just dressed to impress because that's who you are. We've talked about a little bit of the locker room etiquette. Now let's talk about, okay, the gear's a big thing, all that good stuff. The body, all the cosmetics, that's a first impression. So we got to talk about that, but let's talk, actually, you know what? Let's talk about that too. Let's talk about the gear, and let's talk about the body, all that good stuff, all the cosmetic. For now, we're at the cosmetics first impression because we've gotten through them showing up, what they look like when they show up. We've gotten through the locker room. Now we're going to see this guy get ready for his match. Let's talk about first impression on the cosmetics of the wrestling industry.
Absolutely. I think it needs to be that you look like a pro wrestler. You know, that's the main thing. Are you going to look believable? And I think we talked about it on another episode, that believability, that people in the front row don't go, I could kick that guy's ass. That's what you don't want, right? You don't want you to be out there and you look like some sort of high school student or something like that. And I know that when I talked about how I got into the wrestling business, one of the biggest first impressions that I had was seeing Luster, seeing Malachi, and I was sitting in a chair, but I had looked at their website and they were listed at a certain size, right? And I'm sitting in a chair and I'm just like, man, these guys are huge, because I thought, one of them was 6'6", one was 6'7", I think, something like that. Um, and obviously they both look like wrestlers, right? They were in shape. They came to the ring without a shirt on. Um, I think Luster actually used to wear that mesh top, right? Misfits logo. And it was just like, wow, man, these guys are huge. They look like they're in shape. These guys could kick my ass, right? That was my first impression watching an independent wrestling show. So I think that those things are important. The way that you present yourself, and then as we've got a little bit deeper into the business, we know things that we don't want to see, like "Come on, baby," right? We don't want to see that guy.
Let's go,
The "Come
Yuba
on, baby,"
City.
yeah, the "Come on, baby," the "Let's go whatever town we're in" guy, the "Shut your mouth" guy. We don't want to see all that stuff, right? You can have that persona without that stuff, right? You're inviting to the fans, you're slapping hands, things like that. Those things I think are the good thing, where you can go, hey, I'm the baby face, or you're not gonna touch the fans because you're the heel, right? I think simplistic stuff like that goes a long way. You're gonna get into the ring and do your thing, right? You want to make sure, we always talk about wiping your feet. These are the etiquette things that we want to make sure that uh, our ring is clean, that we're not dragging all the dog shit that you stepped in the back into the ring for the next guy to bump on top of, things like that. So looking like a pro wrestler, I think is probably at the top of the list. And I know by talking to you how important having gear is.
Mhm.
So I've never been the guy like you that has new sets of gear frequently. I've always been either wearing biker trunks. Everything for me has always been pretty much always black. Biker trunks,
You're a big
trace
guy.
knee pads.
You're a
Right.
big
Yeah.
guy.
So for me, maybe it's a little bit different. So for me, it's always been biker trunks, regular, just tights. I mean, never tights, but just always bikers, regular trunks. Uh, a lot of the time, it's some sort of Dickies shorts, things like that. Obviously, my boots are tall boots. I don't know. I think that's kind of what, for me, it is. Come to the ring normally was a t-shirt, but I always wrestled without a shirt on, and I think those are good signs where you have the guy that's you're a pro wrestler. Wrestle with your shirt off, and I feel that goes back to just being in shape, looking like a pro wrestler. That's the biggest pet peeve, and I think I made a joke about it on one of the other episodes about the guy that comes to the ring the way that he walked into the building. You know, you got the cut off T-shirt, you got your jean shorts, you're wearing your Vans, your skateboard knee pads. You just walk in there, probably wearing a bandana, right?
Even if you do, though, even if your gimmick is a skateboarder, don't buy actual copywritten skateboarding clothes. There's gear, there's seamstresses, there's gear people. I have a very good gear lady that I've been using for a very long time. Her name is Samantha Packer. Go find her on Facebook. She's very affordable, and she's the coolest gear lady I've ever worked with, or gear in-ring gear person I've ever had. I make sure I have new gear for every show. Dickie Dakin, Rayshawn Prince. I mean, Bad News. I mean, there's so many guys in my company that go through her. Anytime anybody asks me, I say, hey, cool gear, where'd you get it? And they're like, oh, I got it from this person. I said, well, try out Samantha. And I've had people go, well, the first set of gear she made came to me and it didn't fit right, or this and that. And I go, when you're dedicating to a ring gear person, someone making your ring gear, mine wasn't right the first time either. You see it and you get it and you modify it, and then you start to work with her and you start to understand, oh, she gets these sizes and this is how he won. And then it was the first one. The vest was a little long. There were the logos were misplaced a little bit. So when I pulled the trunks up over the pants, and we fixed that. We fixed all that. And the 10 sets I've gotten after that have been perfect. You know what I mean? And the ring gear is important. But if you're going to be a skateboarder or a garbage man, you don't go online and find a garbage man outfit or go buy skateboarding clothes. You get with a gear lady or a gear man or who's ever making a seamstress, and you have your own skateboarding outfit made that's custom to you, that nobody can buy this stuff because you had it custom made. One thing that's really starting to get on my nerves is every single person. Here's two. One, I talked to Al Snow about. It was funny thing was, it was both of our biggest pet peeves in wrestling. That was our common bond on the ride from the San Francisco airport. But one thing is these zip up Halloween wrestling boots. The wrestling boots that everyone buys are like, I need a pair of wrestling boots, and they zip up on the side. It's like, man, those look like they're just going to tear your ankle apart, man. We go over the top rope, land on the floor. Like, I bet your toenails are worse than my toenails. You know what I mean? I got like COVID toes from wearing work boots and wrestling boots my whole career. And I was just talking about the boot thing. Here's one of my biggest pet peeves in the entire business, and it goes with that first impression. If I see you with kick pads, I'm assuming that you kick. I'm not assuming that this is a style that you are wearing just because you think it's cool or you have small calves. I'm assuming, I'm making an ass of you and me that, oh, this guy has kick pads on. He's probably going to snap mare me and kick me in my back. Hopefully not the lower part, but up in the meatier part area so he doesn't cripple me. He's probably going to throw he's probably got a little bit of a Taekwondo or a Muay Thai kickboxing background. I'm probably going to be eating some Daniel Bryan kicks or some Tajiri kick. This guy has to be even if he just kicks me in the back, even if he just kicks me in the ribs, I'm assuming that he has the kick pads because he's going to actually use the kick pads. But in the business, guys are not willing to spend the money on their appearance. I've seen guys that'll go to the gym, pump steroids into their ass cheeks and their biceps all day long. But then you go, hey, man, let's go. I know a gear lady. Let's get some good gear over here. Let's get some gear that makes sense with you too. The kick pads are because somebody doesn't want to buy a good pair of wrestling boots. Quality over quantity. We have talked about this before. Why can't we have both? Why can't somebody get in their career? Do you really expect, and there could be some guys, if you think, that's the big thing, Paul. If you think we're talking about you, we are. 100%. Not afraid to say it. If you want to call me on the phone and be like, hey, man, I think you were ripping into me and dissing on me pretty hard. Yeah, you and many others too. So get your ego in check. If you're not kicking anybody and you have a pair of kick pads, I'm definitely not going to assume, and I'm not going to say I think or in my opinion, because those are just really kind ways for me to tell you I don't want to offend you. Love the guy, but he's a good guy. But if you're wearing kick pads and you're not kicking, there's a good chance that you just do not a good chance. You just don't want to spend the money to get some quality wrestling boots. You're in the professional wrestling business, dude and dudettes out there. Dudettes and dudes, go get and invest in yourself and get a custom pair of wrestling boots with a nice 1-inch or 2-inch lift so you stand taller. Go get some wrestling gear and brand your logo and your name so you can switch out your colors. Do you really expect me to believe that you want this business so bad with every fiber of I want this so bad. I want this so bad, Paul. This is my life. I love it. Hey man, nice Nikes you're wearing right there with a pair of fucking cheap kick pads over it. Why do you do that? Oh, it's more comfortable. Oh, is it? Is it more comfortable? I bet a good, nice pair of wrestling boots with a 2-inch soft lift underneath, where these boots are custom fit to mold to your ankles and your calves the right way. How about the guys whose boots, the laces are too long and they're tripping over them even when they're tied, or they don't have enough lace to tie up the rest of their boot? It's like, buddy, I know you do not give a shit about your appearance because you're not willing to invest. That goes a long way with me, man. You just said it. I just had to go off on that because it really pisses me off when I see guys show up, and I've seen guys with the same pair of tights on the same show. And I'm sitting around here going, I saw somebody else wear that at another show, but are these guys a tag team? No, they're not a tag team. They literally ordered a pair. I get getting your first ever singlet for your debut, man. But hey, when you're 5 or 6 matches in, maybe I would even say after one match, you should already be ordering yourself a custom singlet for yourself. And I think that's not think. We're not. I tell my guys, but if you're not telling your guys to go out there and get some good quality custom gear that appeals to what their body type is and everything, if you're not telling these guys to go purchase, hey man, you ain't debuting until you get a good custom pair of wrestling boots. You know, and I know a lot of people don't, and I've done it before too, but it's like we as coaches and trainers, we have to stay on top of these guys and say, hey, whether you're debuting or not, go get a good pair of wrestling, because your shoe size ain't going to change. So go get a pair of wrestling boots, start training in them to break them in. When you get some gear, we're giving you the place where the gear's at. Go get some good gear. God, so that's sorry, man, but that's the first impression on that. So now we've entered the wrestling squared circle. And I bet we could ask a million people too, why do they call it the squared circle? Why do you call it the squared circle? And we could hear a bunch of answers, but just to be clear, before you tell me about this next first impression, it's because fights and rings of fighting and a lot of things happened in a circular area with people around them crowded around. So that is, the wrestling ring is square and everything happens in the center. So it goes back to the days of crowds of people in the parking lot standing around in a big circle while the guys were in the middle fighting and stuff. So that's why they called it the squared circle. So a little update for you guys right there. But okay, so here we are. We've got through those first impressions on theirs, and I think this is a very good topic. And I hope people listen to this because there's so much shit gear going on in that locker room everywhere I go. What is key in first impression walking out that curtain? What are you looking for? This is about as specific as this shit gets. What are you looking for when you book somebody for the very first time? Here we go. They put their oil on, hopefully just for a picture, and they wipe it off, and then they spray on their body, water on their body before they go out. Hopefully, we're not out there with baby oil Billy covered in a pound of lavender and baby oil. But here we go. Music hits, coming out the curtain. From the music, does it match to them coming out the curtain and what they look like? What are you looking for?
I'm looking for someone who is going to interact with the crowd, whether it's, you're ignoring them because you're the heel, or you are engaging them because you're the baby face. I want you to be able to engage the crowd, get them either starting to hate you as you're walking out or starting to like you as you walk out. So whether that's slapping hands, whether that's dirty looks, whatever it is, and we've talked about how getting in the ring and just kind of listening to maybe as a heel the fans heckling you and kind of like, okay, I heard where that came from. When I start putting some heat on this guy, I'm going to turn to that side of the ring and I'm going to be like, your mom sucks dick or whatever the insult potentially might be.
My mom
But
passed away,
definitely,
Paul. That's so rude.
too, man, we're in the same boat, man.
Yeah.
That's why it sucks so much more. That's why it's so offensive. So offensive. But no, I think engaging the crowd, man, trying to either whatever it is, build some sort of reaction with the crowd, right? Because that's really what we're going to bank on when we're in the ring, right? We're going to be trying to listen to that crowd, so we know when a good opportunity is for as a heel to, shut down the baby face, or as a baby face, you're trying to fight back and cause something to happen, right? Get some sympathy, whatever it is. I want you to be able to engage that crowd, get them on your side or against you, make some sort of connection, right? And I think we've talked about when we talked with Shane Ballard, right? We were talking about, like, he was saying specifically making eye contact with someone on each side of the ring, right? Building that sympathy. So, and I've heard that before. I've heard people saying, like, pick someone out in the crowd, and that's the guy you're going to feed off of or whatever, and you're hoping that spreads throughout the crowd because you're engaging to a fan, a group of fans, things like that. So I think that that's something that I'm really interested in seeing is, how do you get this crowd who wants to be there watching pro wrestling, how do you get them involved, how do you get them engaged in what you're trying to do out there? So I think that's something that's exciting for me, something that I look for. And obviously, we talked about Jerry Gigolo, and we talked about Sir Samurai. Those are the things that I think stand out for those guys, and that's the reason that you want to have them on your show. A lot of time, why you want to have them come out first, really get the crowd engagement going, because that's, the basis of what we're trying to get accomplished, is get the crowd involved and have them have a good time and influence the match, get the emotions flowing. So I think that's definitely something for me that I'm interested in seeing right off the bat. So what about for you? Obviously, I know that that's a huge part of what you're trying to do. You're trying to get those fans engaged. You're trying to build some stories where those fans are getting involved, and they want to be involved in whatever's going on, positively or negatively, babyface or heel. So, what are the type of things that you look for that
Well,
instance?
I'm pretty simple, man. I'm a pretty simple man, Just just feed me, don't lie to me, and give me the occasional and I'll be okay. But do is there something there's got to be a presence when you come out. Like, I either care or I don't care. So when you walk out that curtain as a promoter, as the guy, like we said, like I told you the other day, we got to book the talent and then we got to book the talent. So if I've booked you as the talent and then I've booked you on the show as what I'm doing, you got to catch my eye. I need you to catch my eye. Whether you got a great physique or you're a big guy or it's your gear or the presence, there's got to be something about you when you walk out the curtain. It doesn't have to be like I go, oh my God, I found King Kong. This is going to be the next big star. Do we really have the next big star in indie wrestling? But I look at it and I go, all right, just catch my eye. Catch my eye. Do you got a good little physique? Do you got some good gear? Can you catch my attention? And then, I just be the bad guy. The guy, he can't be the good guy unless you know how to be the bad guy. If you don't know how to rile that place up, then honestly, they don't care who's coming out next. And if you build something over time and you build real heels and you build real baby faces that are over, when you put those guys out there together, or a guy makes a save or comes out and a match doesn't end decisively or someone beats somebody, then the real art form of what we're doing at an advanced level plays out. But I'm just looking for a guy who can walk out the curtain and what he's doing makes sense. I want to see that he's engaging with the audience. I need him to catch my eye. If he's selling, I need him to sell and keep his head up and fight back. If he is in control, I need his punch to look good. It's like AJ Kirsch said, you're the Jolly Green Giant in Hood Slam. Cool. Play the character. Adorable Adrian Adonis. He did the super flamboyant, look at me, look at me. And then he'd kick the living shit out of you for real in the ring. And then he would go back to being flamboyant. And then when he was done being flamboyant and getting the heat from the crowd, he would continue to assault you and kick the shit out of you like a grown man would. So, yeah, I want to know that I don't care. I don't care if your chop, your forearm, your kick. I don't care if all that's bad. Which one do you do that's good? And keep doing it. I know a lot of people say you throw different. You don't ever throw the same heat twice. You don't ever throw if there's 5 heat things, if there's 5 heat moves, and you only throw a good punch, go ahead and stay with the punch. I don't need you to throw a shitty chop. I don't need you to throw a shitty forearm. I don't need you to throw. If your punch sucks, don't throw a punch. If your heat, whatever heat you throw, and if all your heat's bad, don't throw none. Just go out there and do the infamous squash match. I like the guy at the end to ask me for some feedback, and I get a lot of guys that say, "Hey, did you watch my match?" And I'm not the guy that gives them the excuse. I just tell them, no, I was back here talking, or I had something else going on over here. But the beauty of what I do, and we're not here, we're going to mention it again, and we're not Randy Hochderfer, but the beauty of what I do, and thank you, Randy, for doing that. That was not meant with any sarcasm, is I have a production team. There's Doc Haywood. There's Buck James. We Brandon Johnson, Chris Plymisser. We have a production crew. So I know that if I tell a wrestler who's interested in what I thought of their match, if I didn't catch it, I really am going to watch their match. And I'm going to watch it within 2 weeks or less on Prospects or Limelight, and then I can give them some feedback on that. And when I tell a guy I didn't see it, but I heard it, that's not just me making up an excuse. No, I heard your match, bro. I saw absolutely none of it, but I heard it. So I don't give a shit what you did out there. So, I mean, that's pretty much the basis. I was going to talk about something else, man, but I can't believe that we just whipped away. Like, there's so much more of a first impression that I wanted to talk about. And we're almost here at the 55-minute mark. But for these guys, man, we're always watching. Watch what you're talking about in the locker room too, because there's always someone else who is. I've had to tell guys before, hey man, take that shit outside and talk about that outside, because one guy went somewhere and had a bad experience, and the other guy is working for that company somewhere else, and then now they're sitting here in front of impressionable young people and other people who might want to work for there or willing to say anything, and they're arguing and talking shit about this same company. And I had to tell him, hey man, go outside. Then I had to tell the one guy, I said, hey, he works for that company. He loves that company. You're over here bashing that company. You had a problem down there. I'm like, he's going to go tell him everything you said. You know what I mean? So be aware. Locker room awareness. Be aware of who's around you. You said at the start of the show. We had a guy come up at a show me and you were at, and he came up and started talking to you. And then he literally said, so he asked me a question. Like he said it looking right at me. And I responded with my answer. And he like rolled his eyes at me and walked away. And I just thought, you know what, man? One day I can't wait to shove this shit right back up your ass without you even knowing why I'm shoving. And it's nobody of any importance. And not that he's not important as a human being, but to this wrestling business, he's nobody of any importance to anything, and never will affect my personal life, never will affect the wrestling business. But it's like, dude, you didn't, he knew who I was later, but it's like, pay attention, man. And I'm not saying I'm anything special, but I'm a guy booking and helping talent out, and I've been a few places. So treat me, you said it earlier, treat me with some respect, man. I hate when you get these guys and you hear people say it all the time, like, who knew we've been wrestling fans our whole life and now we're in the business, mama, I'm in the main event. And mama, get that laundry done for me and let me know. Fold it up and I'll put it away in my drawers and hang my t-shirts up on the hangers. But mama, I'm in the main event tomorrow night, and your baby boy just is living his dream. I came from one side of the guardrail to the other side of the guardrail. I went from rags to riches, and now I'm sitting in that locker room, whether I'm holding a camera, a microphone, or I'm walking out to that ring with a scepter or a top hat, or I'm a wizard or whatever I am, and I am managing some. I'm managing. I'm reffing. I'm promoting some top stuff out here, mama.
It's just, I can't believe that we got through this so quickly as well. So many different things that we wanted to cover, but unfortunately, we're just at that 57-minute mark. I did want to tell you one other little thing I thought was funny. We had one guy, you know the guy, Todd Smith. I don't know if you remember that guy.
Oh,
He,
R.I.P.
he
Hired gun.
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
man,
Great guy.
hired gun, yeah. But I remember one time we were at a show and he was like, "Hey, have you seen JD?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, I just gotta find him. I don't know what it was, but he needed to find this guy for some reason." And I'm like, "Dude, what the hell are you talking about?" He's like, "I'm looking for JD, man, JD Bishop." I was like, "Oh, nice. I don't know if I've ever heard anybody call ugly JD." I was like, "Perfect, JD. Yeah, I'll see if I can help you find JD." It's one of my favorite memories of people thinking that they know somebody, right? I'm looking for JD. I was
No,
like, I've literally.
the guy on your show is my favorite memory. He came up to me and he says, "You know what? I saw you out there at the training," and he said, "I think that maybe you should think about signing up. You look like you were pretty interested." I said, "Oh, really?" I said, yeah, I was pretty interested because I was coaching, because I've been doing this for over 25 years." And he goes, "Really?" I go, "Yeah." I said, "Hey man, you don't remember me?" "No." And I said, "Last show you came up to me. We talked in the parking lot." "Really?" I said, "Yeah, buddy. We had a full-on conversation in the parking lot. You must have amnesia or something." And then he came up to me because he ended up being on the show, and he came up to me in the locker room. And this was my actual favorite. He goes, "You know what, man?" He goes, "You're you're pretty good at talking in front and antagonizing that crowd. It kind of sounds like you've done this before." And I'm like, I think this dude is fucking with me right now. But he wasn't. He was not at all. And we just sit here, and I see these guys in the locker room that say some dumb stuff. And I'm not trying to make fun of anybody, but yeah, there it was right there. "Mama, I'm in the main. Give me the money, mama." And speaking of that, there's guys in this business that think that they're going to do a lot of great things, and they probably will be, but all you got to do is put the work in. I'm Zach Primetime Reeb. He's the Wrecking Ball, Paul Isadora. We're going over.